Welcome back from the break to Pivotal Change, your show on leadership and development and helping people grow to make those better changes in their lives and ultimately reach success. We are back again with Blueprint Ventures, Mr. Steve Galley, a friend of mine, and we are going to be talking about more and more of the industry traps and green lights and red lights that entrepreneurs and business owners and founders need to avoid or drive through. So, Steve, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. So we talked about some processes, we talked about some teams and the hierarchy of what you look for in examining some things. And so you had mentioned before, if somebody ever reaches out to Blueprint Ventures, you're really big into having the conversations and working with the various areas that can help those founders, those entrepreneurs in their growth. So run me through, what does that actual process look like? Pretend I've reached out to you and I said, hey, I'm trying to grow my business. I don't know what to do next, whatever that conversation and process may look like. Walk me through that.
Yeah, sit and talk. You know, what we find is the venture route or the private equity route isn't for everybody, first of all. We've seen so many businesses and we sit outside the box, which I think is another very important factor, where these business owners sit inside the box. So how do you truly understand what you're doing? You're lost, right? You're down in the woods and you can't make your way through the forest. So a lot of what we do could really, a 30-minute conversation with somebody could open up their eyes and just be like, oh, wow, I have direction, I have clarity. And it's rewarding to us just to see that look on their face where they're like, the aha moment goes off and they're like, oh, like the weight comes off their shoulders and they kind of feel like they have some hope again. If there's a fit for us to work with them, we'll continue to push forward. But again, a lot of times people just need a little bit of direction to then clear the way and let them really succeed.
So it sounds like sometimes the mindset isn't always exactly right. So talking with founders and owners, what are some of the misconceptions that they have in their business at any part of their journey, or maybe starting off with that journey? Where are they off on their thinking?
Yeah, a lot of founders, depending on your industry too, right? The tech industry just feels like they need money because they've been trained to just feel like they need money. So the tech industry is always looking for big capital coming in because that's how they judge success. Other businesses and lifestyle businesses tend to go in that direction as well. You know, what we see often is, what's your biggest pain point, is a question that we'll ask, and they'll say money. If we just had, and sometimes the answers are absurd. Like we literally sat in front of somebody who asked for $25 million with no business, no revenue, no anything, an idea. And they're like, if we only had $25 million, like everything would be solved. The more money somebody raises, the bigger the mistakes are that they're going to make, and the longer it's going to take them to actually pivot from those mistakes and change those mistakes from happening. So I think the most common misconception is everybody thinks they need money when they really don't.
Yeah, I like that. Really what they need probably is an idea, good systems, and a hard work ethic more than anything. So I think that's an excellent point, and I really hope the audience heard that as well. And just to throw another bouncing comment off what you said about raising big money, the larger you grow, the harder it is for you to make adjustments and make changes in the market, to pivot, to point. I would rather be a little more in the area of a jet ski where I can navigate and move around to what I need than being a cruise ship, which takes a year to turn around in the ocean. And so, yeah, if I started with $25 million in my pocket, which again, if you want to throw me 25 million, I'm not going to argue with you. But that takes a lot of big mistakes, a lot of risk, and a lot of movement, versus having that vision, that system, and that good team around you. So that kind of brings me to a point. So you've mentioned some good things in the past. Let's narrow the conversation a little bit to, like, let's talk about the good founder versus bad founder mindset. Can you give us some examples of, like, hey, we talk to people and here's a good part of the mindset they have, and here's some negative side, and just create a little list, differentiate the two for us, if you would.
Yeah, definitely. I think the good founder, they know their industry. They are the domain expert inside their industry. They know their industry inside and out, and they're open to change. They have an open mind. They are willing to pivot if they need to pivot, and they're willing to look for change and embrace change and truly embrace change, because they know that the way that things have been going haven't really been the right way for the industry or their business specifically. And that's a whole mindset of really a good founder. If you're open-minded and you're a culture fit and you're willing to put in the work, anything could happen.
I like that a lot. So sometimes a lot of people are afraid of change. There's a really famous quote that says, people fear change, but the only thing guaranteed in life is change. And now we're not talking about making change for the sake of change by having such an open mind that you're grasping at everything that comes your way. But when there's a true example of somebody has a good idea, there's a new person with a new skill set that can plug in, or the industry is changing with a new demand, you need to be able to pivot with that. Is that the open mindedness you're talking about?
Yes, and then not having like that like shiny, squirrel syndrome where it's like all of a sudden squirrel and you're off to the next thing. Making sure that you could actually focus and implement the change in the right way and then make data-driven decisions. That's another key. We tend to have a lot of data because we see a lot of businesses and we see how the industry is going. If you're having a slow sales month, it might not be your business. It might be something more economic related that's just driving every industry down. So really being able to make data-driven decisions is another key.
Well, I like that a lot. And so people have to realize there is a need to not so much feel out the business, but run it on data. There's always going to be a feel to everything. It's a combination of art and science, we might say, but you definitely need to have the science, the data included in your decision making process, and not try to make it art and sales all the time. So I like that too. So going along the line of some of those bad founder decisions, what have you seen somebody had this unfortunate mindset, this bad mindset, and it just drove them into the ground? What are the couple of major hazards you'd really say do not have this mindset?
Yeah, it's a fine line, right? Because I always say a good entrepreneur is somebody who's relentless, but you also have to be accepting to reality. And there is a fine line there because some of the bad founder mindsets or the bad things that we've seen these founders make is just not changing, just going like straight downhill and not even having the foresight to be like, okay, I need to pull up and hit the brakes a little bit because this thing is sinking and sinking fast. And they just get so set in their ways that it's almost like an ego thing. It's almost like it's like, well, if I change, then I was wrong. And it comes into that ego side where they refuse to change.
I think you might have just hit a really big chord with the hey, it might be an ego thing. I think that is way more prevalent, not in just cross the board with humans, but you put somebody that has a position of power now, they have developed some type of company or industry, and it may be a small business with just a handful of employees, but they get in the mindset of that's my baby, and I can't have made a mistake. I can't have done this wrong. And so now they become overprotected of that child, that baby, and refuse to change when it's necessary. Yeah, we make a funny. I have a good friend of mine. And you've probably met her, but we joke about pivoting versus being a bulldozer. Sometimes you have to be the bulldozer and you have to keep going and push all that dirt out of your way, right? And sometimes you have to pivot and be the excavator that says, no, we're going to dig over here now. We're going to dig over here now. And I think an owner, I'm hearing you say, that can really either have some advisors or have that open mindset that allows them to recognize when it's time to be one versus the other.
Yeah, I will say this, and it's the harsh reality for a lot of founders, CEOs, and business owners. The same person who started the business is not the same person who typically is going to run that business forever. And you're going to hit certain levels where you might be a great starter, but like every other, like look into the sports world, right? You bring in a great culture building coach that builds culture and builds foundations, but can never win a playoff game. But then you get the team, the culture's built, the culture's set, and you bring in that really good game coach, and you have a franchise.
I think that is a really fantastic example. We have a yin and yang model, and my partner and I, Wayne, we're two different backgrounds, we're two different people. We think different ways. We have our core values in common, and we've brought ourselves together on a company with very two different aspects. He laid that foundation for years and allowed me to come in and have the ability to help implement that. And that takes a lot of lack of ego, the ability to step outside of yourself, be a little more objective, taking your hands off the steering wheel and let somebody else drive a little bit. So in all of these things, let me end with this question here. So back to leadership and specifically, if you're going to say, hey, right now today, somebody could start, this entire conversation ends with starting on this one leadership quality that you need to develop, what would you tell them to right now go develop today and start working on?
How to be a leader. I think how to be a leader is the number one area that everybody should be looking at. Good to Great was one of the greatest books that I've ever read. If anybody, Good to Great by Jim Collins, amazing. After my career, because I kind of feel like I'm at like my career is pretty much in the past right now. I did a lot back then, and I'm at this different stage of my life. reading it after I actually left the startup world was very, very eye-opening to kind of look back and almost like reminisce on certain things and see as a check, was I right? Was I wrong? At that point was really, really eye-opening. Yeah. Be a good leader.
I like that a lot. So that's wonderful. So hey, Steve, we're getting ready to roll back into commercial break. Tell us one more time if somebody wants to talk to you and get your advice and get a little bit more of that Blueprint Ventures brain. How do they get a hold of you?
Yep. bpv.io. You could come to the website, Instagram, at Stephen Gell, GEL, and LinkedIn. DM me. I'm always available. Just DM me anything that you need through LinkedIn and I'll get back to you.
Awesome. That's absolutely fantastic. And we're going to be cutting to commercial break. And everyone else, you stay tuned. We'll be right back on Pivotal Change.